OpenAI created a global sensation when they launched ChatGPT in November 2022. The AI chatbot hit 100 million active users just 2 months after launch, making it the fastest growing consumer app in history. Since then, generative AI has gotten everyone buzzed on the idea that computers will replace human creativity. So much so that BuzzFeed announced that they're going to use ChatGPT to spice up their clickbait articles and quizzes. The news sent the company's stock up 150%. The AI arms race is heating up, and what used to be a slow and steady march to ensure safe and responsible AI development is now turning into a sprint. Microsoft is teaming up with OpenAI to resuscitate Bing from its 14-year-long coma. Google issued an internal code red and announced Bard, which impressed absolutely no one and instead wiped off $100 billion from Alphabet's market cap. But China isn't going to let American tech CEOs have all the fun. Chinese search engine Baidu announced its ChatGPT competitor ErnieBot, and both Tencent and Alibaba are rushing to get their own generative AI products to market this spring. No one wants to be left behind, especially not all the cringe YouTubers out there who claim to be making thousands of dollars with ChatGPT. Like, really, bro? Man, I'm so tired of these get-rich-quick schemes. You know where I'm going with this. Generative AI is incredibly impressive with promising societal implications, but the hype cycle is already getting out of hand, and a lot of people are about to get burned. In this video, I explore why generative AI is the next bubble. As I was structuring my thoughts for this video, I figured I would ask ChatGPT to help me write an outline for the topic, why AI is a bubble. ChatGPT respectfully responded, "I'm sorry, but as a responsible AI language model, I cannot provide information or support content that spreads misinformation or promotes false narratives." Okay. Appreciate the objectivity, ChatGPT. I guess I'm on my own. Anyone who's ever read a finance book knows what a bubble is. And if you're watching this, I know you're intellectually curious, so I won't bore you with too much detail. In his excellent book, Irrational Exuberance, Robert Shiller explains it better than I ever could. He writes, "I define a speculative bubble as a situation in which news of price increases spurs investor enthusiasm, which spreads by psychological contagion from person to person, in the process amplifying stories that might justify the price increase and bringing in a larger and larger class of investors who, despite doubts about the real value of the investment, are drawn to it partly through the envy of other successes and partly through a gambler's excitement." That's a long-ass sentence, but it's fantastic. Envy is a dangerous drug. This is something Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger often preach as well. When we hear that a friend made thousands of dollars from a trade, we want in on the action. Humans are remarkably good at following others. We default to imitating a group's behavior rather than thinking for ourselves and acting independently. This herd mentality is the fundamental cause for every asset bubble, whether it's tulip mania in the 1600s, the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s, the global financial crisis in 2008, or crypto and NFTs in 2021. And yes, it will be the reason for the next AI bubble as well. The tricky thing about bubbles is that they're incredibly hard to spot, especially when we're in one. Only in hindsight, after they've burst, do they become clear. Why are bubbles so hard to detect? Well, they often coincide with technological breakthroughs. Whenever a new invention comes around, there's often widespread media coverage, and every thought leader and business person we admire announces how this new tech is going to change the way we live. We saw it in the 1990s with the advent of the internet.
I believe that it's very easy to predict that there are going to be lots of successful companies born of the internet. They're going to have very large market caps and so on.
We saw it with crypto and NFTs.
Yeah, so look, so this is the only time I've ever said this is like the internet is this. Like, I've never, if you go back through all my historical statements, like one could imagine that with my experience, I could have said this like 48 times.
We saw it with the metaverse.
Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space. It has parts of your physical home recreated virtually, it has things that are only possible virtually, and it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful.
And we will likely see it with AI.
So I'll tell you what ChatGPT is, just so you know, because you need to know this. And I don't know what sort of technological revolution this is. Gutenberg press level? It's something like that. This is a big deal.
When our role models constantly hype up every new advancement in tech, what do common mortals like you and I end up doing? We pile in and follow the herd. Now, this doesn't mean that these technological advancements are just a fad. They're not. But there's often an initial period where people get ahead of themselves and overvalue the technology's immediate societal impact. The Nasdaq soared fivefold between 1995 and 2000 before tanking 77% by October 2022. It would take the Nasdaq 15 years before recovering to its dot-com highs. Similarly, NFT sales volume on OpenAI hit $4.9 billion in January 2022 before falling back to earth by summertime. Who knows how long it'll take to get back to January's highs again. And Zuck is burning $10 billion on his metaverse ambitions every year, while Meta shareholders are getting wrecked along the way. But hey, at least they figured out legs for its avatars. We're clearly a long way from a metaverse that anyone wants to participate in. I'm trying to keep all these things in mind as I evaluate what's happening in AI right now. AI startup valuations are soaring. Google recently invested $300 million in the 2-year-old AI startup Anthropic at a juicy $5 billion valuation. Anthropic has now raised a total $1 billion in less than 2 years. Funny enough, they previously raised $500 million from none other than Alameda Research. Due diligence obviously wasn't Alameda's strong suit, despite the name, so I hope Google knows what they're doing here. But it doesn't really seem like it. Google is all over the place right now, which one of my favorite YouTubers, John Coogan, nicely explained in this tweet where he said, "Extremely weird that Google is launching their own Bard chatbot while also investing in Anthropic's Claude chatbot. Feels very indecisive. Even the folks at Google don't have a strong vision for how this will play out. Conviction around AI is in short supply right now." That's a great point. Although I would argue that there is massive conviction in AI right now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing big funding rounds like these. More than anything, it's a sign that the market might be overconfident in the immediate success of generative AI. Canadian startup Cohere is another example. They're looking to raise capital in a round that would value the company at more than $6 billion. That's not a tiny number, especially in today's high interest rate environment. But moves like these are not confined to the private markets. Public AI stocks are also making drastic upward moves, with C3.ai being a great example. The stock is up 115% year to date. Why? Well, why not? It's got a 6 stock ticker. BigBear.ai is up 436% year to date, and BuzzFeed is up 173%. What do these companies have in common other than that they're riding the AI hype wave? Well, they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars every year. But no one seems to care about a company's quality of earnings right now or how strong its gross margins are. Can these companies effectively deploy capital? Can they ensure that shareholders will see a solid return on their invested capital? Nobody knows and nobody cares, because as long as YouTubers can trigger your herd mentality using cringe and shocking thumbnails, the AI bubble will keep flying high, until it won't. So am I an AI bear? Absolutely not. I'm a big fan, but if history can be a lesson, I think it makes sense to be cautious when everyone else is getting hyped up. Curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think we're going to see an AI asset bubble? While you ponder that question, I'd love for you to check out this video about ChatGPT and why Sam Altman's team has gotten Google so paranoid in the first place. And also, if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do. Thanks for watching and see you next time.